Ground control to Major Tom.
We've been expecting you, Mr. Boyd.
Morning. As a student of foreign affairs, one quotation from our most illustrious recent foreign minister, Douglas Hurd, simply won't go away, and it is this. For some time now, Britain is a nation which punches above her weight. And I think we know what he means by that. Quite simply, our defence resources no longer match the volume of our voice in conference on international matters. The question is this: free call 0500 10 53 89. What, if anything at all, is the way forward for Britain's defence? That number again, free call 0500 10 53 89. We are talking about the future of our armed forces, the future of the Royal Navy, the Royal Air Force, and our Army. Our Army has had a checkered history. It's our Royal Navy to whom we owe the Empire and Britain's most glorious passage in history, and the Royal Air Force, perhaps, to whom we owe our freedom from the shadow of Nazi tyranny and the 90 glorious but blood-stained days that were the Battle of Britain. But how do we go forward with those three services? Free call 0500 10 53 89. The argument that we have simply too many soldiers, too many tanks, too much in the way of ground forces has been rumbling on now for, I would guess, a good decade, or 17 years if you accept that the argument moved at least 1 degree to the right in the wake of enduring the Falklands crisis. Should we now prepare to fight only conflicts of such scale again and harvest what we would be able to save in terms of revenue, at least, to spend either on our remaining two armed services, the Royal Navy and the Royal Air Force, or garner those resources and spend our money on health and education? Free call 0500 10 53 89. How strong is the argument that we need to maintain in the 21st century a full and effective navy, when you consider that what was once an empire which stretched across something like a third of the world has been reduced to in the region of a dozen or possibly 13 islands, effectively, over which we have some form of protectorate? Free call 0500 10 53 89. And as for the Royal Air Force, now that we have reduced our nuclear deterrent to a collection of missiles which can be fired by the Royal Navy from our submarine flotilla, there are those who argue, and I feel that this is rather derisive, but there are those who argue that these days the RAF and our pilots, the Brill-Cream boys, are little more than glorified bus drivers. It's a vast topic, but a crucial topic. Free call 0500 10 53 89. What is the way forward for Britain's armed forces? I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There is a good argument for listening.
Talk Radio. Tommy Boyd.
It's time to poison the water hole.
Cutting edge.
Tommy Boyd.
Sucks less.
You know, I don't want to bring this up, but you've been treating a lot of people with a lot of disrespect.
And then there's the sensitive and contemporary matter of the sexuality of our fighting forces. I say that the Army and the Royal Air Force should remain heterosexual, but we could let the Navy go gay and see how it works. Steve calls from Portsmouth. You're on Talk Radio, Steve.
Hi, Tommy.
Sir.
I just think the last round of defence cut we had, I mean, we've shot ourselves in the foot again. We've cut back too far.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually in the Navy. And, I mean, we've cut ourselves off again. In 1982, or just before 1982, before the Falklands, John Knott had this marvellous idea he was going to cut the Navy back. And then all of a sudden the Falklands blew up, and he suddenly discovered, oh, we need lots of ships. And They tried it again just before the Gulf War. They were going to cut everything back and then discovered, oh, we need lots of armed forces again. And interestingly enough, we just had the Strategic Defence Review, and they've cut lots and lots out of the defence budget. And what do you know, Saddam's up to his old tricks again. So that's it. We've shot ourselves in the foot. We're going to get caught out again.
And what about the sensitive issue of the sexuality of our fighting men and women, Steve? The Navy, if one of them had to go gay, the Navy would be best, wouldn't it?
What, you mean they're going to make it compulsory?
Yes. Yes.
To be honest, I mean, the way the Navy, I know I've had 20 odd years in the Navy, and I know the general attitude of, certainly of Matlows, is they're homophobic. So if you put a gay on a Royal Navy ship, he'd have a long swim home.
But there are lots of gays on Royal Navy ships already.
Not on Royal Navy ships, on Royal Fleet Auxiliaries there are.
No, come on. I mean, I'm not suggesting that you're gay, although you wouldn't mind if I did, because, you know, we're modern people, aren't we? We don't care anymore.
Well, yeah. But there are people who...
We've got to start somewhere. We've got to start somewhere, haven't we? This is a big issue, and it's not going to go away. We've got to start somewhere, and it seems to me that the best place to start is in the Royal Navy.
Why the Navy?
Well, for lots of reasons. It is the best suited of the three armed forces for gay people, isn't it?
Why is that?
Well, I think that's pretty obvious, isn't it? The uniforms are a lot sexier. Well, isn't it?
Well, it's the best looking uniforms, yeah.
Exactly. And there's a history of it in the Royal Navy, isn't there?
Not that I know of.
Well, I mean, Churchill was famous for his quotation, which I'm not sure if I can repeat on the radio. But believe me, well, in fact, you know, don't you, that...
Well, I know in 20 years in the Navy, I've never met one.
Well, you have. It's just that they didn't trust you enough to tell you what they were really like.
Oh, right.
You know. Maybe you should ask around a bit more.
I know amongst the merchant Navy, or the merchant marine and the Royal Fleet Auxiliaries, I mean, there's everything, there's gays, transvestites and everything amongst that lot. And to be honest, when the Navy mixes with them, it's all taken in good heart.
If they brought it in, would you want a transfer to the Army?
If it became compulsory?
Yes.
Yes, I would want a transfer, because I'm not.
No.
But, I mean, if what you're suggesting seriously is that it be allowed to go on...
It will happen, and I think that it will happen in one of the three services first, rather than across the board. And it seems to me to make sense that you start with the Navy. Everybody on the outside would say that to you, Steve, wouldn't they?
Well, I mean, there is the old saying of the Navy was it was all rum, bum and backy.
Yeah, exactly. That's more or less what Churchill said, but not quite. He was actually cruder than you, which I'm sure he could be. Steve, thank you for your call. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Tony calls from Telford.
Hello.
Tony, welcome to Talk Radio.
And welcome to you, Tommy.
Thank you.
Nice day out here today. Absolutely wonderful in Telford. Listen, I've got a lovely idea to save us loads and loads and loads of money. Why do we send these sailor boys out with sandwiches? Because that would save on the phone bill.
I'm not quite with you, forgive me.
Well, I don't mean the phone bill, I mean the food bill.
Ah.
Brain dead, sorry.
No, just like to prove that I listen, as well as talk.
A Freudian slip, I think. Also, if we don't pay them because they fight for Queen and country, that would also save on the wages bill. Give them rowing boats. Now, this is a clincher, this is. They can't be seen on radar, rowing boats, because they're made of wood, okay, so they don't send a reflection back.
Wait, that's not true.
Oh, it is?
That's not true. You can see wooden things on radar.
Oh, but they look like lumps of wood, you see.
What?
They look like lumps of wood.
Well, that's because they are.
Well, that's right.
Well,
they'll say, "Oh, we won't fight. That's only an old lump of wood."
Look. If you couldn't pick up wood on radar, all right?
Yeah.
Don't you think that the American Air Force would have thought of that? And instead of spending hundreds of billions of dollars on that stealth bomber, with all its reflective technology,
a wooden one.
Yeah, they'd have just got a glider.
Ah, but you see, they're selling all the wood to the Japanese. It's much more lucrative.
You're not taking this seriously.
I am.
You're not. It's a very serious subject. We're talking about the defence of the realm. Andy calls from North London. Andy, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tommy.
Sir.
Love your programme.
Thank you.
Tommy, I just wanted to make a point to you, a little bit of a serious point. About, I think that the Army should look into the new millennium with, new eyes. They should see themselves as we are paying for them. They should be representing us. I know they do a bit with the Green Goddesses, but I think they should do a lot more, and they should, be the strong arm for the police. And I think that they could do a worldwide, peace thing. They could help clear the minefields that they laid over the last 100 years, and, there should be a change in uniforms. And, Tommy, if you didn't think about it, they might be even increase their job prospects after they leave the Army, because...
Now, that's a very good point.
What good is a trained killer on the streets after 20 years?
I think that's a very important point that you're making. That an awful lot of people leave the Army, for sure. We meet them from time to time in various walks of life, but not necessarily walks of employment.
Indeed,
With a set of skills, really, which only transfer themselves to policing Arndale centres, to be honest.
And, you got to think about the goodwill it's going to create. I mean, I think majority of people resent their tax-paying money going into Northern Ireland and the problems around the world, that they don't seem to be solving. I mean, 25 years now they're in the north of Ireland. They haven't really done very much. I mean, maybe you should spend a couple of years, could put more men in there and clean it up. I mean,
And how do you stand on the business of gays in the armed forces?
Well, now tell me, they're already there. I mean, there's gays everywhere. I mean, live and let live, I mean, that, as I say, it's a new millennium. It's time to start facing up to facts.
But when the government finally gives the pink light to the armed forces to accept people who have come out of the closet in the armed forces, it will probably happen with one of the services rather than all three. And which one do you think is most likely to get the go-ahead first?
I think it should be the one that's the most visual to the people. It should be the military. The army that you see every day.
The army.
Yeah, of course.
Andy, thank you for your call. Richard is next, and he calls from London. Richard, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Tom, good afternoon. You said they're nothing but bus drivers, these fighter pilots.
That's what is being said, yes, Richard.
Who
Tragic,
said it?
isn't it?
Who said it?
This bloke in the pub who was next to me.
It's like that Ken Clark when he called the ambulance men van drivers, isn't it? Remember that? Remember that when he was trying to undercut them and that? The ambulance.
I missed that. I can't keep up on all current affairs, Richard.
That was a while ago. But I mean, these people who come out with stuff like that, they're just. If it's a politician, he shouldn't be a politician. Certainly ain't a statesman. I mean, they're not fit to sweep the hangers that these guys work out of. Never mind about anything else.
I think the point is that the role of the modern RAF has changed in recent years quite dramatically, Richard.
The role of everything's changed, isn't it? We're all just pushing buttons or being pushed as though we was buttons.
Yes. Well, with all due respect, that's a platitude, a truism.
Yeah.
It doesn't get interesting until we define...
No, but,
can I just finish a sentence? It doesn't get interesting, Richard, until we define the change that has taken place. And in the case of the RAF, they have gone from the glorious Brill Cream Boys, a machine gun at the end of every wingtip, into becoming, well, glorified bus drivers.
Well, I mean, the Falklands geezers weren't no bus drivers, was they?
True or false?
Well, I don't know. Were you there?
No, that was the history, dear. We're talking about now. It's 1998.
Well, what about the Gulf War? How much up to date do you want to be?
Well, again, that's history.
All right, there's geezers training in tornadoes up in East Anglia. A couple of them crashed a while ago. I mean, they're getting in these things. They're hurtling around the speed of sound.
People die driving buses.
Well, that's true enough as well.
Isn't it?
But, I mean,
the point of the remark is, Richard, and it carries rather a lot of water if you ask me, the point of the remark is that these days, those flyers that we have who are flying military aircraft in the Royal Air Force tend to be shipping men and machinery. You
mean it's Transport Command?
Yeah.
It's just transporting men and machinery all around wherever it's needed.
Yes.
There's no action going on.
Yes, and that's why they get called glorified bus drivers.
Oh, in that sense, yeah. Now, about Churchill...
So you see that point now?
Yeah, but I mean, about Churchill, you keep coming back to Churchill. Well, he ain't current, is he?
Glad to have cleared that up for you.
Well, in that case, can I make a further comment? I read, because, like, being from the East End, when he went down the East End after a night's bombing, he come out in his romper suit and his tin hat on, and he was telling the old dears who'd had their homes and families devastated, with the old V sign and the cigar, we can take it, and one of them said, we're the ones that bloody taking it, mister, piss off back to your bunker. And that's what I call real talk.
A delicious piece of local colour. Richard, I'm grateful for you. I can almost see...
And why make the bloke the Prime Minister after he's won the war? I mean, when you Bulldogs won a fight, you stick him in a kennel, you don't make him Prime Minister.
Richard, next time you call, I'll get the number of Pathé News for you.
Yes, mate.
Thank you for your call.
Good.
Yes. Free call 0500 10 53 89. We're discussing the future of our armed forces. And also the question of the sexuality of our fighting men and women. It's going to happen sooner rather than later. To find out how it's going to affect all three of our armed forces, let's let the Navy go gay and see how that works. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening.
Tommy Boyd.
Another look at the twisting maggots in the deepest recesses of the human soul. Oh, man! On the Tommy Boyd Show.
I was wondering if the time hasn't arrived to let the Navy go gay. Jane calls from Peterborough.
Oh, hello.
Jane, welcome to Talk Radio.
Hello. In response to your comment that the pilots in the RAF are no more than bus drivers, well, they are. I mean, so what? We all need bus drivers, but I mean, I wouldn't call a fighter pilot a bus driver. They're not taking anybody anywhere. They would be in combat. They would be there to do a specific job.
But they haven't got any meaningful armaments these days. They're not really frontline fighting forces anymore. They've got those little machine guns, I know, and they've got one or two little missiles
they
can
carry
fire.
bombs.
But compared to the Royal Navy, who could do away with most of Eastern Europe,
how would the Navy help with Middle East or the Far East?
No, look, you can't get away from it. In terms of fighting power, the Royal Navy and the RAF are no longer in the same leagues as each other. The Royal Navy is nuclear, and the RAF isn't.
Yes.
So...
But would we be in a position where we would actually be willing to use nuclear forces?
Well, that's neither here nor there. We're just talking about the potential of the armed forces. Yes. So the RAF, generally speaking, have been relegated to the role of moving men and machinery around, which is, as you say, reasonably important.
Which needs to be done. I mean,
yes.
Previously they've been very useful in doing that.
The RAF is the first of the services that really could become civilian.
Yes, it could.
Because mostly it's done these days by computers, isn't it?
It's the most vulnerable because it is the youngest service, and the Navy is the oldest service.
Yes.
And it has far more tradition. But and we are an island, and there's no getting away from that. But
well, no, we're not really an island anymore. We've got a tunnel now. You see that actually really.
But that could easily be bombed, so that you could get rid of that quite easily, if you're in a war situation.
Yes, I know, but by that same token, with a certain amount of strategic bombing, you could turn North America into an island. Britain at the moment
but they act very insular anyway.
Yes, that's changing the subject. I'm just saying that we're not really an island anymore. You said there was no getting away from it. Well, there is now.
Well,
it costs about $29.99.
But you could argue that at the moment we are very stable because we're part of Europe, and that Europe is very stable, and we have no threat of war with Europe. But that may change.
A word of warning there from Jane in Peterborough, and she knows because her dad is in the RAF. Andrew calls from Hampshire. You're on Talk Radio, Andrew.
Good afternoon, Tommy.
Sir.
Excellent show. Right, the point on the reduction of the forces nowadays, I still believe that there is a vital role for the forces, especially the Navy, because they are showing the flag worldwide, and in my opinion, my humble opinion, that makes us the difference between a punitive third world nation and an up-and-coming up-front nation. And this can only be good. That reflects Britain's interests worldwide as far as business and as far as contracts goes, and it makes the rest of the world realise that they're dealing with major players. That's one reason that I think that the forces are still a major pawn, even if it's not so much in a fighting role. And anyway, I always thought that the major role of the Navy, Army and Air Force are to act firmly as a deterrent and actually to deter war rather than creating it.
Well, God knows that over the last 1,000 years or so of mankind's history, they haven't got a very good record if that's what they were trying to do. But let's bring Sean into the conversation. Stay with us, Andrew, in Hampshire. Sean joins us from Slough. Sean, you're on Talk Radio.
Hiya, Tommy.
We have Andrew with us, who's in the Navy. What's your point?
Well, I wanted to say that it's a good idea to make the Navy or any part of the armed force exclusively gay. But with the Navy, I mean, I thought it was already practically compulsory anyway. Like, the whole rationale of being in the Navy is, like, it's boys amongst boys. It's mucking it all together.
Is that about right, Andrew, would you say, in your experience?
Not really, I wouldn't say that at all.
No?
I'd just say that, you know, what's going to be is what's going to be. I don't know the way that the future is shaped for the armed forces, and I dare say there's many people above us that will make the decisions. But what I will say is that in a practicality daily situation, that the size of your bedroom, you could fit 20 guys in who all have to share that sort of confined space. So obviously you've got to be careful of the sort of differences that you have between people. Normally football teams and politics normally sustain, but I don't know. It depends what decisions they make and what happens.
Yeah, bedroom being the operative word. Can I just say one more thing, Tommy?
Certainly.
I've got a kind of a slightly radical view of history with this one. What it is that what you said about the Navy being the vanguard of Britain's push to control the third of the world. Everyone thinks it's always to do with, like, colonising countries and getting access to free labour, you know, the transatlantic slave trade, all that kind of thing, and getting a lift-off for the Industrial Revolution. Actually, what it was a search for newer and fresher and more rounded bottoms, hence India, Africa, South America. And, of course, it was the Navy which was the fuel behind this push. It was a never-ending search for more bottoms, basically.
Sure, that is indeed a very interesting angle that you've taken there on recent history. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yes. Andrew, thank you also for your call.
Okay, thank you.
A free call 0500 10 53 89. We're asking what way forward for Britain's armed services. And since if the current campaign is likely to be successful, which it is, which of the armed forces should go gay first? The Navy does seem the obvious place to start. Andrew calls from Milton Keynes. You're on Talk Radio, Andrew.
Hello, Tommy, how are you?
I'm well, thank you for asking.
Good, good. The only point I'd like to make is that people become very... there's a lot of hysteria around having gay people in the forces and women in the forces and what have you. It works perfectly well in any other workplace. So why wouldn't it work in the forces? You know, you have people of various sexual orientations working together. They don't spend the whole time having sex with each other, so why on earth would they in the armed forces?
Well, there are certain areas of employment, Andrew, where it is, well, I'm just going to say compulsory, but that would be a shallow analysis, where it is almost, let's say, de rigueur. I'm thinking of some areas of the media, for example.
Yeah.
Some of the performing arts, hairdressing perhaps, I don't know. And those areas seem to be just as successful. They seem to be able to fulfill their stated objectives as successfully as does a ostensibly heterosexual workforce. So
what you're saying that if the whole Navy was gay, it'd work better?
Well, people at the moment who work for the Royal Navy may have to be asked a serious question in a not too distant future.
Yeah. And the question would be, would you mind gay people serving with you? Or?
Will you stay or will you go?
Yeah.
Will you stay and not necessarily join in, but would you want separate quarters? Will there be heterosexual sailors' end down at the front of the ship? I forget, but that's the aft, isn't it? The prow.
So you'd have the heterosexuals at the front and the gay ones come up the rear, Tommy?
The gay ones would have the rear. I'm just asking how it would work.
Yeah.
I'm just asking, you know, how is it going to work? How's it going to work? If they join the army, then, you know, going to have a gay tank?
Perhaps you could. I don't know.
And a straight tank?
I don't know why actually.
I'll tell you what, it would make the royal tattoo a lot more interesting, wouldn't it? You know where they do that stupid thing when they get a cannon over 3 fences?
Excellent. Yeah.
Okay, you could have the gay troop and the straight troop.
Yeah.
And then you would actually have somebody you could want to cheer for. Who would you cheer for?
I'd cheer for the straight one, I think.
You would? Yeah, I think I would too.
Hopefully so, anyway. Perhaps you could colour code them, and the gay ones could have a nice pink cannon to pull along.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
It would make an interesting twist on Gladiators, wouldn't it, on television? Because they haven't thought of a better Saturday evening entertainment than Gladiators since that came on in 1992.
No, I think it's about time they ought to, actually.
But at the moment they have men and they have women doing that thing against each other.
So you could have a third party and have the gay gladiators as well.
It would work. You know it would work.
It would definitely work. I'll be tuning into that. But you know the problem that happened there, Tommy?
Yes.
It'd only be on Sky Sports.
Yes, that's true.
So you'd have to pay per view to watch it.
You would, but you would, wouldn't you?
But there you go.
You know.
There you go.
Andrew, thank you for your call. The armed forces. Which way forward? David calls from Bradford. David, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tommy.
Sir.
Can I just ask you one question? Have you ever been in the forces?
Yes.
What were you in?
I don't like to talk about it.
Ah, you see.
Yes.
Were you bringing it up on radio?
Yes, I'm entitled to do that. I'm a journalist now.
You can't say that one force is better than the other.
And you can't say that if you haven't... I mean, have you played professional football?
No, but I've been a professional soldier.
No, but who do you support?
I don't support anybody.
Why not?
I don't follow football.
Why not?
Because I'm not a football fanatic. I'm not a sports fanatic.
Well, we did say that you can't phone this programme and talk on the programme unless you've got a preferred football team, but since it's you.
But anyway, you can't divide the three forces, which is the better one. You need all three. You need a good, strong one of all three. If you use the Navy, you kill more people than necessary. If you use the Air Force, you kill more people than necessary. But if you use the infantry, and the infantry goes in, they can control the ground force and control and eliminate how many people are killed. You can take prisoners. If you use the Air Force or the Navy...
Look, you can't get away from it, David. I'm sorry. You can't get away from it. Your history lesson is perhaps quite accurate. I don't know. But you can't get away from the fact that these days the Royal Navy is better equipped with its nuclear deterrent to preserve the peace in Europe than either the RAF or the Army. You can't get away from that fact, can you?
The RAF have got just as good weapons where they can hit a target.
No, they haven't got any nuclear bombs.
No, but they can hit a target more efficiently now than they could do when I was in the forces.
Yes, that's as may be, but you see, the Royal Air Force could take out a football pitch, whereas the Royal Navy could take out a continent.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
You see my point?
Yeah, but
that is why the Royal Navy, you see, has a louder voice in the defence of the realm these days than at any time since the Empire.
Yeah, but if you're going into an action, you do not want to kill thousands of people. You want to eliminate the amount you have to kill. And if you use the army and you're sending the infantry, you will do that. But if you use the Air Force or the Navy, you will kill thousands and you wipe thousands out.
Isn't that the idea?
Not necessarily, no.
In a war?
In a war, that's not necessarily, no.
I served in a different... yes, anyway. David, thank you for your call.
Well, thank you, Tommy, yeah.
And I would say that one of the two Bradford sides are worth following this season.
Bradford Norton or the Bulls.
And you like rugby league?
Well, as I say, I don't follow either, but if I had to go, I suppose I would enjoy it.
True enough. Many a true word. Jenny calls now from Glasgow. Jenny, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Hi, Tommy. It's about the gays in the Navy.
Yes.
My husband's just out of the Navy about a year, and just before he left, they were told to fill in a questionnaire about this, and they felt uncomfortable at the thought that they were at sea so long. I mean, the other forces are on land-based nearly all the time, and they can go out and wander about, but you're at sea for 30, 40, 50 days at a time, and that's what they felt uncomfortable with. It was just, I mean, it's bad enough your wife suspecting that you're away with her then when you're away at sea, never mind another man.
Well, to detach yourself from your personal circumstances and your husband's record, if it was decided that gays would be allowed in one of the armed forces first to see how it works, do you not agree that the Navy would be the best place to start, simply because of the circumstance which you've just reminded us of, that they can be away for up to 3 months at a time without seeing a woman?
No, I think it'd be better starting with the Army, because
the Army?
Yeah, because, I mean, the Navy, you're in so
But that's dangerous work.
So's the Navy. I think it's more dangerous than the Army.
You don't have to go charging over muddy fields going, ah!
No, you've got to sit in the sea like a sitting duck.
Well, yes, that takes a certain type of courage, agreed.
But
there's courage and courage, isn't there?
Yeah, I think when they're at sea, I mean, they're there and they live together. I mean, you think there's 30 men to a mess, and if you feel uncomfortable with a gay man being there, I mean, it's not going to make your job any easier, and it's not going to make his life very pleasant.
No, but you'd have a whole ship, you see, would be gay. That's what they're talking about doing. So a whole ship would be gay.
I suppose if it was a whole ship, there shouldn't be a problem. I'm talking about mixing it.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't explain myself clearly. The Navy's got about, 70 ships now?
I couldn't tell you. It's a long time since they spoke about it.
They say that 1 in 10 men are gay.
Mm-hmm.
So 7 of the Navy's ships, 10%, could just go completely gay. So everybody from the captain right down to the cabin boys, whatever they have nowadays, the cooks, the men who do the guns and put the little shells up the guns, they'd all be gay.
Yeah, well, I think that's a good idea.
That would work, in your view?
Yeah, I think so, because they've still got the courage the same as any straight man or woman.
Thank you for your call, Jenny. Andy gets the last word on this one from Southampton. Andy, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Hi, Tommy. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
I agree in part with what your last caller said about the circumstances being different on the Navy.
Yes.
Being on a ship full of electricity floating on salty water.
Yes.
That's hazardous, if you ask me.
Yes.
But one thing that I've heard before, which I think definitely applies, is that men don't like taking showers with men who like taking showers with men.
Andy, thank you very much indeed for your call. Free call 0500 10 53 89. We ask this question next. What is the true cost? And if you're in a car at the moment, do this one in your head. What is the true cost of motoring per mile?
DHL Worldwide Express.
Get raw with the people on the dance floor.
Talk Radio.
Free call 0500 10 53 89.
Coming up at 5 this afternoon, a Talk Radio International Football Drive Time. Live from Arnhem in Holland, Chelsea meet Atletico Madrid in the opening match of the pre-season Gelderland tournament. Our commentary team of Mosdy, Tony Lockwood and Clive Allen will bring you the entire match, live and exclusive from 5 on Talk Radio, your national football station on 1053, 1089 AM.
Tommy Boyds Street Beat Symphony with DHL Worldwide Express.
This is a cracking question. If you motor at all, what is the cost of motoring per mile? What is the actual cost of motoring per mile? And what do you get when you put in your X's? Last time I was lucky enough to, and it's great fun being able to put in your motoring X's, it was 28 pence a mile. That was a couple of years ago, and then it felt good, but I think these days it's a good deal more than that, isn't it? Simply because A, the price of petrol has gone up, but also B, because people who negotiate these things, who drive for a living, have always driven a hard bargain, besides whatever four wheels they've got. Free call 0500 10 53 89. If you motor, what do you charge per mile, and how was it worked out? More likely than not, when you joined whoever it is you drive for, they simply said to you, and your motoring is 32 pence a mile, 35 pence a mile, 37 pence a mile. And if you meet somebody else who drives for a living, inevitably you will end up comparing the motoring miles and the charges that you can pull down. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Now, if you pay people to drive for a living, what do you pay? And how the heck did you work it out? It's really, isn't it, surely a matter of pulling down a number and, I don't know, multiplying it by 2? There should be some kind of formalised calculation on which people base the cost of motoring per mile. There has to be some way of working out how much the petrol costs, and of course that can fluctuate, so why doesn't your motoring mile cost fluctuate as prices change on the forecourt? Then there's the running costs of being on the road. You know, if the Chancellor puts up the cost of road tax or whatever, then surely you should be charging more for your motoring mile. There's depreciation on the machine that you're driving, so that ought to be taken into consideration, shouldn't it? If you're lucky enough to work for a company who pay your mileage and you drive a £35,000 German machine, then that your charge should reflect that, especially if a colleague of yours is unlucky enough to be driving his wife's Lada or whatever. Could have been any make of car. Free call 0500 10 53 89. There are other things as well. Have you thought about getting the parking costs, which can be huge these days, in on your motoring mile? The question is this: what is the true cost of motoring per mile? What do you charge if you're lucky enough to be able to charge it? And what do you pay if you have to deal with the business of working out how legitimate your employees' claims are for motoring? Because who hasn't worked somewhere where they do pay the motoring miles Only to have a colleague in the pub after 3 pints let you know, because he's proud of it, that he actually made up his address, or moved a lot nearer his place of work, but still pretended that he lived where he used to live, because that meant that the round trip was 137 miles instead of 63 miles. Come on, what is the true cost of motoring per mile? Wasn't there a politician whose constituency was in Scotland who used to get something like 65 pence per mile, so he always used to drive home every weekend, ha-ha? Free call 0500 1053 89. The cost of motoring per mile. Most of the time it's just a scam. At the best, it's a legitimate incentive. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening. Paul's our first caller on this one, from Bristol. Paul, you're on Talk Radio. Hi.
Good afternoon, Tommy.
Sir.
Right, well, mileage to me costs nothing. The simple reason being is my company pay for everything. So people like me, meaning a lot of people who drive around, are quite prepared to drive around all day, every day, on their own in their car because it costs nothing. No, I've not used public transport in a long time. And it's not because I don't like it, but it's because I don't have to pay for it. And I think,
so you don't pay for your car?
Absolutely not. The only thing I pay is tax on the car. That works out maybe £40-50 a month, but the value I'm getting for money, having it all day, every day, using it as often as I want, when I want.
Why do you pay the tax? Is that your company's requirement, or is that in law?
No, that's because the company provides the vehicle, and it's a law requirement. We're taxed upon it, and then therefore it's taken out of your wages.
Okay. How much motoring do you do in a typical week?
Well, today I've done 300 miles.
Okay.
I've been from Bristol down to the south coast and back up. Average weekly mileage, maybe 800 to 1,000.
Okay. And you've been doing this for how long?
9 years this year.
So although you don't pay a penny for it, okay, what do you think would be the right charge to make per mile for what you do?
Per mile? Well, depending on whose car it is. If it was my own car, it's not a case of getting from A to B. It's a case of servicing the vehicle, tyres, etc.
Everything? You've got to charge for everything?
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, there's no point in putting petrol in the car if at the end of the year you've got a bill for tyres and servicing.
52 pence a mile?
Pence per mile, I'd say around about 50 to 60 pence per mile.
50 to 60 pence a mile?
Yep.
Okay, Paul, thank you very much indeed for your call. Free call 0500 1053 89. You're listening to Street Beat Symphony with DHL Worldwide Express. Paul calls from London. You're on Talk Radio. Paul, good afternoon.
Hi, Tommy.
Paul?
Yeah, I'm a minicab driver in Bexley Heath, London, and on average it costs me about 30 pence a mile to work, and I take between £1.10 and £2 a mile.
Right. How do you work out the costs of 30 pence a mile?
I averaged it out when I bought a new car.
Yeah, can I say that sounds cheap?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you run a diesel car, you run a nice car, it doesn't cost you a lot. Insurance is sort of £10-12 a week. The cost of the car is around £50 a week, but when you do sort of mileage I do, the higher the mileage, the lower the running costs.
Understood. All right. Now, you guys are always telling us in the back, you're a black cab driver, are you?
No, I'm a minicab driver.
Oh, I see. But are you a licensed minicab driver?
Yes, our office is one of the leading offices in London that's running the licensing law that's just been passed, the bill in Parliament. It just got royal ascension last week or the week before.
Right, so if you were charging per mile, if you were charging somebody per mile for your driving, and you had to incorporate the meter in your car, and the cost of whatever you have to meet to buy that, and to keep that licensed, what would your costs be per mile then?
It's a bit of a con really, because our prices would go up to an average of £1.40 a mile. But the meter itself works out differently because of waiting time. As a minicab driver, we don't charge people for being stuck in traffic, whereas a black cab does.
Now, what about depreciation?
What, the value of the car?
Yeah, how do we work that out?
Well, I chop and change my car every year. And over the course of a year, I suppose I lose about £3,000 on the price of a car.
You do?
Yeah.
All right, and is that in any way determined by the amount of motoring that you do, so that you can build it into a formula?
Yeah, I mean, most people don't mind about the price. As long as you service your car regularly, most car companies that you buy from, especially if you keep going back to the same one, they don't depreciate the value of it too much by the high mileage.
OK, Paul, thanks very much indeed for your call. Free call 0500 1053 89. Graham calls. Graham, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon. Hello, Graham. Where are you?
I'm on the M1 at the moment.
Right.
I'm on the M1 at the moment.
Right.
Am I through to the radio?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm a courier. Couriers are normally paid something around about 45 pence per mile loaded.
When you say, when you say...
I'm sorry, it's bad line I'm fighting. Sorry, I lost you.
How's that calculated?
How do I calculate? I don't know. This is a standard sort of rate within 2 or 3 pence either side of that. Most companies pay the same. I've got a vehicle which costs £20 per day, roughly, for maintenance. It costs me about £3 a day insurance. It costs me a couple of pounds a day for the phone that goes with the job. So you've got £25, and then I spend around about between 120 and 150 pounds a week on diesel.
Right. So your mileage rate feels about fair to you?
Sorry?
Your mileage rate feels about fair?
We're paid mileage on the loaded mile. That's when we pick up, from where we pick up from until we deliver. So if I have to drive 10 miles to pick up, drive 100 miles, drop off, that's all I get paid for, that's the 100 mile.
Listen, I'll let you tootle on. Your phone that you mentioned just about did the business. Free call 0500 10 53 89. You're listening to Street Beat Symphony with DHL, Worldwide Express. Jeremy calls from Watford. You're on Talk Radio. Hello, Jeremy.
Hi, Tommy.
Jeremy.
Worked it out slightly differently from everyone else, working it out on the life of a car.
Yeah.
An average car of £12,000.
Yeah.
£650 tax.
Yeah.
£200 worth of sort of AA cover, RAC, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
4,000 insurance over the life of about, I'm working it out to about 5 years, 100,000 miles. And it works out per mile for the car, not discounting any sort of benefits you get from having a car.
Yeah.
Somewhere between £4 and £5.
This is more like it.
Per mile. And I believe the AA came out with a figure similar to this. I certainly heard a figure a couple of years ago. So therefore, the 37 pence a mile that I receive as and when I'm working...
It's a joke.
Is a joke.
It's a joke.
Absolutely.
What do you do?
I work in the film industry.
Do you? What do you do?
Nothing exciting, just sort of location work from time to time.
Whatever. Nevertheless, you've got to get about, and they pay you, this stinking rich film industry of ours in Britain, they pay you 35 pence a mile.
Well, I beg to differ that they're very rich, but yeah, they don't, yeah, but they're no different from any other industry from what I can gather.
I think it's important to do these sums fully. We sat down a while ago on this show, behind the scenes, and worked out the actual cost of having a child. And it came to something like £500,000.
That wouldn't surprise me.
No.
No.
£4 or £5 a mile, huh?
Yep.
Right, and what's your next project? Do you know yet?
I don't. Not at the moment. I'm out of work.
Jeremy, thanks for your call.
You're welcome.
Street Beat Symphony with DHL Worldwide Express. I'm Tommy Boyd, and we've got a slight technical. Not to worry, let me remind you that coming up at 5... we have a Talk Radio International Football Drive Time live from Arnhem in Holland. Chelsea meet Atletico Madrid in the opening match of the pre-season Elderland Tour. Work our way through till 5 o'clock with the Gremlins that Anna mentioned at the back end of her excellent show. We'll wind this conversation up with a word with Bob, who calls from West Sussex. Bob, you're on Talk Radio. Hi.
Hi, I was just calling because, well, basically what everyone else is saying. It's the petrol cost that I've got to pay for out of my own pocket, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was just, making a complaint about that. Drivers we get a fairly good salary, but we've got to pay it out basically from our salary, and it takes up about 50% of my monthly salary.
What do you drive?
Sorry?
What do you drive?
What car, or like what sort of?
Well, you say you're a professional driver. What do you drive when you're working?
Well, I drive. I've driven the film stars only over here in England, around the London area. And
I see. When you say you're a professional driver, you mean you're a professional private driver. You're a chauffeur.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, and I've got to pay for my own petrol costs.
Yeah. Do you know the cost of petrol per litre?
Actually, I don't.
No.
Because no.
None of us have made the switch, have we?
No.
We have to do our sums and work out what it must be per gallon because they don't put it on the pumps any longer.
I know. Yeah.
Listen, drive on, drive safely with your precious cargo.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks for your call.
You used to work on Channel 5, didn't you?
Yeah, I've been around.
Baseball.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm also into baseball.
Well, we'll have to have that conversation another time because we've hit the news and then it's football.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers, Bob Boy. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. Talk to you at 3 tomorrow. Chelsea, Atletico Madrid with Moz D is next.
Don't forget to subscribe and like. Comment too if you wish. Even slap your legs and make a purchase from Ann Summers. But don't do nothing.